I teased her, she whispered back. And our desire became irresistible. The taunting merchant, Jaren Voss, leaned against the curved viewport of Nexus Station, watching as ships from a dozen systems docked in the massive orbital facility. His reflection showed a man with an easy smile that never quite reached his eyes, a useful trait for someone who negotiated interplanetary trade deals for the Terran Commerce Guild. Admiring the view, or yourself, came a voice from behind. Jaren turned, his practiced smile broadening automatically. Both are equally spectacular, wouldn't you agree? The quip died on his lips as he took in the figure before him. She was Valorian. That much was obvious from her purple skin that seemed to shimmer subtly in the station's artificial light. Her eyes, large and intensely violet, regarded him with neither the offense nor the amusement his comments typically provoked. I'm Niara Jen, representative of the Valorian Diplomatic Corps, she said, extending a slender hand. You must be Jaren Voss, your reputation precedes you. All good things, I hope? He asked, taking her hand. Her skin was cool to the touch with a texture like polished stone. Hardly, she replied, the corner of her mouth twitching almost imperceptibly. The briefing described you as irritatingly effective and dangerously charming. I was warned to maintain professional distance. Jaren laughed, genuinely this time. Well, at least they got the effective part right. He gestured toward the promenade. Shall we discuss the Cygnus trade route proposal over a drink? I find negotiation flows better with lubrication. A transparent attempt to lower my guard through chemical means, Niara observed as they walked. Predictable, but I accept. I prefer to know my opponents before the real games begin. The station's central promenade buzzed with activity, merchants hawking exotic wares, maintenance droids weaving through crowds, in the constant hum of a dozen languages. They found a quiet corner in an establishment called the Void's Edge, where the transparent ceiling offered a breathtaking view of the planet below. So, Jaren began after their drinks arrived, the Valorian Consortium suddenly wants access to the Cygnus route after centuries of isolation. Care to explain the change of heart? Niara sipped her drink, something iridescent that changed colors as it moved. Perhaps we grew tired of watching humans claim everything that isn't nailed down. Ouch, Jaren placed a hand over his heart. And here I thought we were going to be friends. Is that what you think this is? Her voice dropped slightly, a subtle change that nonetheless captured his full attention. Friendship? There was something in her tone, a hint of challenge, perhaps even invitation, that caught him off guard. Jaren was accustomed to being the provocateur, the one who kept others slightly off balance. Yet here was this Valorian diplomat, seemingly immune to his charm while simultaneously turning his own tactics against him. I think, he said carefully, this could be whatever we want it to be. How diplomatic of you. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass. But I wonder if you're capable of seeing beyond the next deal, the next conquest. You've known me for all of 30 minutes and you're already psychoanalyzing me. I'm a diplomat. Reading people quickly is a professional requirement. She leaned forward slightly. And you, Jaren Voss, are an open book written in very large print. Something about her confidence both irritated and intrigued him. Please enlighten me. Niara's voice lowered to barely above a whisper, forcing him to lean closer. You use charm as a shield. You tease and provoke to maintain control of every interaction. When was the last time someone surprised you? Her words hit with unexpected precision. Jaren felt a strange flutter in his chest, part indignation, part fascination. Before he could formulate a suitably dismissive response, their wrist comms chimed simultaneously. The preliminary council meeting, Niara said, rising gracefully. We should continue this discussion afterward. As they walked toward the council chambers, Jaren found himself watching the subtle movements of her shoulders, the confident rhythm of her steps. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about the upcoming negotiation. Instead, he wondered what other insights Niara Jen might whisper, and why he suddenly wanted so badly to hear them. Saw diplomatic provocations. The council chamber hummed with tension as representatives from 7 star systems argued over the proposed expansion of the Cygnus trade route. Jaren observed Niara from across the circular table, impressed by her composed demeanor, despite the increasingly heated debate. The Valorian request for equal access rights is unreasonable, argued the Centaurian delegate, his translucent skin flushing orange with agitation. They haven't contributed to the route's development or security. Nyara's response came in measured tones. The route passes through the Calamar Nebula, which has been Valorian territory for millennia. We've merely tolerated your passage until now. Jaren suppressed a smile. She was good, better than he'd anticipated. When his turn came to speak, he leaned forward. Perhaps there's a middle path, he suggested, eyes meeting Nyara's. The Terran Commerce Guild proposes a joint administration agreement. Shared access, shared responsibility, shared profits. The chamber erupted into overlapping arguments. Through the chaos, Nyara maintained eye contact with him, one delicate eyebrow raised in what might have been grudging appreciation. 3 hours later, the council adjourned without resolution. Jaren intercepted Nyara as she gathered her data tablets. That was quite a performance, he said. You've put them all on the defensive. Including you? Her violet eyes studied him with unsettling intensity. I prefer to think of myself as adaptable. He moved slightly closer. Working dinner? To discuss potential compromises? How noble of you to sacrifice your evening for diplomacy. Her lips curved into a subtle smile. The station's garden dome. 1900 hours. I find the greenery reminds me of home. The garden dome was a marvel of xenobotanical engineering, plants from dozens of worlds coexisting in a carefully balanced ecosystem. Jaren found Nyara seated beside a small pond where luminescent aquatic flora cast a blue glow across the water's surface. You're punctual, she observed as he approached. Another surprise. I'm discovering that you inspire me to defy expectations. He settled beside her, closer than strictly necessary. Although I'm disappointed to learn you find me predictable. Nyara turned toward him, her profile silhouetted against the glowing pond. I didn't say predictable. I said transparent. There's a difference. Enlighten me. Predictable suggests a lack of imagination. Her voice dropped to that captivating near whisper. You, Jaren Voss, have plenty of imagination. You simply lack incentive to be more than the charming rogue everyone expects. Their conversation over dinner wove between professional negotiation and increasingly personal observations. Nyara proved remarkably knowledgeable about Terran politics and culture, even quoting obscure Earth poetry that Jaren himself had studied years ago. You've researched me specifically, he realized aloud. Of course. She took a sip of her drink, watching him over the rim, just as you've undoubtedly researched me. Jaren smiled sheepishly. Your file was surprisingly thin. The Valorian diplomatic corps values privacy. She set down her glass. But I'm curious what you did learn. Top graduate of the Valorian Institute. 7 successful major negotiations, including the notoriously difficult Proxima Accords. No personal information whatsoever. He leaned closer, which only makes me more curious about the woman behind the diplomat. Curiosity, Nyara whispered. Close enough that he could detect the subtle floral scent of her skin, can be dangerous, or rewarding. His fingers brushed against hers on the table, a fleeting contact that sent an unexpected current through his body. Nyara didn't pull away. Instead, she deliberately turned her hand palm upward, allowing his fingertips to trace the delicate lines there. Tomorrow's session will be difficult, she said, her professional words at odds with the intimate gesture. The Arcturian delegation is pushing for exclusive mining rights in the nebula. And what do you really want from these negotiations, Nyara? Jaren asked, his voice low. Her eyes met his, unguarded for the first time. The same thing everyone truly wants beneath our political posturing and strategic gambits. Her fingers intertwined with his. Connection. As they walked back toward the residential section of the station, their hands occasionally brushing, Jaren felt a peculiar lightness in his chest. When they reached her quarters, Nyara paused at the threshold. This game we're playing, she said softly. It's becoming something more, isn't it? Before he could answer, she leaned forward and whispered in his ear, her breath warm against his skin. I look forward to seeing which of us admits it first. Then she was gone, the door sliding shut between them, leaving Jaren staring at the smooth metal surface with a racing pulse and a bewildering sense that he was losing a game whose rules he didn't fully understand. Whispered confessions. For the next 3 days, Jaren and Nyara maintained a professional facade during council sessions, while exchanging increasingly charged glances across the table. Their verbal sparring became the highlight of otherwise tedious negotiations, with other delegates watching their exchanges like spectators at a tennis match. On the fourth night, Jaren received a cryptic message on his private channel, Observatory Deck Midnight. The observatory deck was officially closed for maintenance, but Jaren found the access panel mysteriously unlocked. Inside, darkness enveloped him except for the spectacular panorama of stars visible through the massive dome overhead. He found Nyara standing in the center of the viewing platform, her purple skin ethereally beautiful in the starlight. "I was beginning to think you weren't coming," she said without turning. "And miss a clandestine meeting with a beautiful diplomat? Not likely." He moved to stand beside her. "Though I am curious why the secrecy." Nyara's expression was uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Because what I want to discuss isn't for diplomatic records." She gestured toward the stars. "Do you see that faint blue star? That's Valoris, my homeworld. It's beautiful. It's dying." Her voice held a tremor he'd never heard before. "Our sun is becoming unstable. Within 3 generations it will expand and consume our inner planets." Jaren stared at her, comprehension dawning. "The Cygnus route. You don't want it for trade. We need evacuation routes, new colony worlds." She turned to face him fully. "My people are too proud to announce our predicament to the galaxy. But I will not let them perish for the sake of pride." Without thinking, Jaren reached for her hand. "Why are you telling me this? I represent Terra's interests." "Because you're more than your position, Jaren." Her fingers tightened around his. "I've watched you these past days. You care more than you pretend to. You're placing an enormous amount of trust in someone you barely know." Nyara stepped closer, her body nearly touching his.
"Am I? Or have I seen something in you that you've forgotten was there?"
The air between them seemed charged with electricity. Jaren reached up to brush a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "I should be thinking about how to use this information to Terra's advantage," he admitted. "Instead, I'm wondering how your lips would feel against mine." "Perhaps you should find out," she whispered, "before you make any diplomatic decisions." Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory, a diplomat's kiss testing boundaries. The second was anything but. Jaren pulled her against him as starlight cascaded around them, her body fitting against his with unexpected rightness. Her lips parted beneath his, and he felt her hands slide up his chest to curl around his neck. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Nyara kept her eyes closed for a moment longer. "That was not in the diplomatic handbook," she murmured. Jaren laughed softly. "I think we're writing our own protocols now." She opened her eyes, suddenly serious. "This complicates everything. Life without complications isn't really living." He traced the delicate curve of her ear. "Tell me more about Valoris. Tell me about you, not the diplomat, but the woman." They sat together beneath the stars, and Nyara spoke of her childhood in the floating cities of Valoris, of family traditions and personal dreams she'd set aside for duty. Jaren found himself reciprocating with stories he'd never shared, his humble beginnings in the Martian colonies, his disillusionment with the politics behind his diplomatic role. "I've never told anyone these things," he confessed as the station's night cycle deepened around them. "Perhaps you never found someone who truly wanted to listen." Her hand rested over his heart. "Or perhaps you never allowed yourself to be heard." As artificial dawn began to lighten the observatory, casting rose-gold light across their entwined figures, Jaren realized with startling clarity that Nyara had accomplished what no one else had managed in years. She had seen past his practiced charm to the man beneath, and somehow inexplicably found him worth knowing. "We should go," she said reluctantly. "The morning session. Hang the morning session." He pulled her close again. "For once in my life I've found something more important than the next deal." Nyara smiled against his lips. "Now that," she whispered, "is truly unpredictable." Forbidden orbits, the following week, transformed both Jaren and Nyara. By day, they maintained their professional roles, Jaren advocating for Terran interests, Nyara representing Valorian concerns, but their arguments now contained subtle undercurrents only they could detect. By night, they explored each other's worlds through whispered conversations and increasingly passionate encounters in hidden corners of the station. After a particularly contentious council session, Jaren received a message directing him to Maintenance Shaft 47B. He found Nyara waiting inside the narrow utility corridor, her expression troubled. "What's wrong?" he asked, immediately concerned. The Arcturian delegation suspects something between us. She paced the confined space. Their ambassador cornered me after the session, suggesting I might be compromised by Terran influence. Jaren frowned. That's rich, considering their backdoor deals with the Centaurians. This isn't a joke, Jaren. Niara stopped pacing, her violet eyes serious. If my government believes I've been influenced by personal feelings, they'll recall me immediately. The evacuation routes will never be approved. He reached for her, pulling her against his chest. Then we'll be more careful. Professional adversaries in public, something else in private. She relaxed slightly in his embrace. There's more. I've received new directives from Valoris. They've authorized me to offer mining rights in the outer asteroid belt in exchange for exclusive colony rights on Proxima 4. Jaren stiffened. Proxima 4 is a prime Terra colonization target. The Guild would never, I know. She looked up at him. I'm telling you this against every protocol. Do you understand what that means? The weight of her trust settled over him. You're choosing us over duty. I'm choosing to believe there's a solution that serves both. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. But I need to know you're with me, that this isn't just a game. Jaren completed her thought. It stopped being a game the moment you whispered the truth about Valoris. He kissed her then, deeply, trying to convey through touch what he wasn't yet ready to say aloud. When they separated, Niara's breathing had quickened. We have 40 minutes before anyone will notice our absence, she whispered, her hands already working at the fastenings of his formal attire. Not exactly the romantic setting I'd planned. Jaren murmured against her neck. Romance is a luxury for people whose worlds aren't at stake. Despite her words, there was tenderness in her touch as she guided his hands to the hidden closures of her diplomatic uniform. The utilitarian corridor transformed into a sanctuary of sensation as they discovered each other's bodies, her skin like warm silk beneath his fingers, the surprising strength in her slender form as she pressed him against the wall. Their coupling was urgent yet intimate, each touch a promise, each kiss a confession neither was ready to voice. Afterward, as they adjusted their clothing in comfortable silence, Jaren made a decision. I need to show you something, he said. Tonight, my quarters. Hours later, Niara stood in Jaren's sparsely decorated room, examining the star charts displayed on his private terminal. These are Guild-classified survey reports, she said, eyes widening as she recognized the data. How did you... Let's just say I've had my own doubts about Guild policies for some time. Jaren highlighted a system near the edge of mapped space. The Lyra 2 system. 3 habitable planets, rich resources, and most importantly, outside current territorial claims. Understanding dawned in her eyes. A joint colony, Valorian and Terran, with guaranteed evacuation routes through the Cygnus corridor. He took her hand. It's not perfect. Both our governments will resist, but it's a starting point. Niara studied the charts, her professional assessment warring with personal hope. The radiation levels in the outer system might provide natural shielding for ships along the route, she mused. And here, this gas giant could supply fuel for long-range transports. As they worked through the night, professional expertise blending with personal connection, their proposal took shape. Dawn found them curled together on Jaren's narrow bed, data tablets scattered around them, a new future tentatively mapped out. Do you think it could actually work? Niara asked, her head resting on his chest. Jaren's fingers traced lazy patterns along her bare shoulder. It has to, because I'm not willing to choose between saving your world and being with you. She propped herself up to look at him, vulnerability clear in her expression. When did this become so important? When did you become so important to me? Somewhere between your first whisper and this moment. He answered, drawing her down for a kiss that held both desire and something deeper, something neither of them had yet named. Beyond Stars and Protocol. The joint proposal was met with stunned silence when Jaren and Niara presented it to the council. The Arcturian ambassador was the first to recover. This is unprecedented, he sputtered. A shared colony?
Cooperative development?
The administrative nightmare alone is considerably less nightmarish than the alternative, Jaren interrupted smoothly. Continued territorial disputes, resource depletion, and missed opportunities for all parties. Niara stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in every measured word. The Lyra 2 system offers sufficient resources for multiple generations of development. The proposed cooperative framework ensures equitable distribution while maintaining cultural autonomy. The debate raged for hours, then days. Behind the scenes, Jaren and Niara worked tirelessly, meeting with individual delegations, addressing concerns, building alliances. Their professional collaboration became as seamless as their personal connection, each anticipating the other's thoughts, strengthening arguments, covering vulnerabilities. 5 days into negotiations, disaster struck. A coded message arrived for Niara during a recess. Her face drained of color as she read it. "What is it?" Jaren asked when they were alone.
Valorous has accelerated the timetable.
"Our son's instability has increased dramatically." Her hands trembled slightly. "We have 2 generations at most, not 3. We'll adjust the proposal. Increase the evacuation capacity. My government is panicking. They've ordered me to abandon the joint proposal and demand immediate colonization rights to the Proxima system." She looked at him with anguish. "They're threatening to reveal Terra's illegal mining operations in the Deneb sector if the guild refuses." Jaren felt the blood drain from his face. "How did they—" "I didn't tell them," Yara said quickly. "But espionage exists even among allies, Jaren." He paced the small conference room. "This changes everything. If Valoris exposes the Deneb operations, the guild standing among the neutral systems would collapse. But Proxima can't support both our expansion needs and your evacuation requirements." "I know." Nyara's voice was barely audible. "I'm being ordered to sacrifice what we've built for my world's immediate needs." Jaren stopped pacing, suddenly still. "When are you supposed to deliver this ultimatum?" "Tomorrow's session, after which I'll likely be recalled regardless of the outcome." Her eyes met his, pain evident in their violet depths. "This is goodbye one way or another." "No." The firmness in his voice surprised even him. "I refuse to accept that." Through the night they worked feverishly, calling in every favor, leveraging every connection. Jaren contacted his mentor in the guild's inner council, revealing the extent of the crisis while carefully protecting Niara's involvement. She, in turn, reached out to a progressive faction within the Valorian government, arguing passionately for patience and cooperation. Dawn found them exhausted but determined as they entered the council chamber. The tension was palpable as delegates took their seats, rumors of ultimatums and revelations having already circulated. Before the session could formally begin, the main doors opened to admit an unexpected figure, Admiral Karina West, head of the Terran Exploration Command, and Jaren's former commanding officer. "The Terran Commerce Guild has authorized me to announce an immediate initiative," she stated without preamble. "In light of new astronomical data regarding the Valorian system star, Terra is offering immediate assistance with evacuation infrastructure and temporary settlement rights on our outer colonies." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Yara shot a questioning glance at Jaren, who gave a slight nod in response. The Valorian Prime Delegate, who had arrived with equal abruptness, stepped forward. "Valoris acknowledges this generous offer and, in the spirit of cooperation, withdraws any unofficial suggestions of diplomatic leverage." As the council erupted into confused discussion, Jaren made his way to Nyara's side. "My mentor came through," he whispered. "Emergency powers for humanitarian crisis. It buys us time to implement the joint colony plan properly." "My contact must have reached the Prime Delegate," she whispered back. "But this is temporary at best. The fundamental problems remain. Then we'll solve them. Together." His hand found hers beneath the table. "I've requested reassignment as liaison to the Valorian evacuation effort." Her eyes widened. "That's the only choice that makes sense." His fingers tightened around hers. "I love you, Nyara Jen. Across stars or protocol or whatever else stands between us." The words, so long unspoken, seemed to hang in the air between them. For a moment, the council chamber, the crisis, the entire station faded away, leaving only the two of them. "I should maintain diplomatic composure," she whispered, a smile breaking through her professional mask. "But I find myself increasingly undiplomatic where you're concerned." Her fingers intertwined with his. "I love you too. Beyond reason or duty or the boundaries of our worlds." 3 months later, Niara stood on the observation deck of the Terran vessel Horizon, watching as the first joint colony ships departed for the Lyra 2 system. Behind her, the door slid open to admit Jaren, now wearing the insignia of the Joint Colonial Administration. "The Valorian transport reports all systems nominal," he said, coming to stand beside her. "First wave of evacuees should reach New Valoris within the standard month." "New Valoris," she repeated softly. "A strange name for a new beginning." "Every ending creates the possibility for something new." He turned her to face him. "Speaking of which." From his pocket he withdrew a small object, a ring crafted from metals of both their worlds, twisted together in an unbroken pattern. "Diplomatic protocol suggests a minimum 2-year transition period before permanent cultural integration," he said, his formal words belied by the emotion in his eyes. "But I find myself increasingly undiplomatic where you're concerned." Nyara laughed, the sound bright with joy. "Are you proposing an accelerated timeline, Ambassador Voss?" "I'm proposing forever, Diplomat Jen." His expression grew serious. "Whatever comes, whatever challenges our worlds face, I want to face them with you." As she held out her hand to accept both the ring and all it represented, Nyara whispered the words that had changed everything between them months before. Connection. It's what everyone truly wants. Their kiss, witnessed only by the stars and the departing ships carrying their peoples toward a shared future, sealed a promise that had begun with a tease and a whisper, and blossomed into something powerful enough to bridge worlds.